boundaries in relationships? Do you have to have boundaries to have a successful relationship? So, creating healthy boundaries. Let's start with you, Kelly.
Healthy boundaries, okay. I don't know if you necessarily need to have boundaries. Whatever works for you, right? Whatever works for your relationship. Some couples don't have any fucking boundaries. They just do it, and it works for them.
But does it work? Like, do you feel like it works from the outside looking in?
I can't tell. People always gonna put on what they want you to see.
But sometimes you can see through the facade.
That's
the
true.
fact that you said some people don't have any boundaries at all.
Yeah.
It means, like, to me, that implies that you notice that it's not working.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, honestly, some people don't have. It works for them. Some people, it seems like it really works for them. It's fine.
What kind of boundaries are we talking about? Because I have different categories that come to my mind.
Right. There are definitely different categories. I'll give you one. A couple that calls each other, that refers to each other in a manner that maybe some homies would refer to each other on the street.
Oh.
Like, he calling her bitch, she calling him, and that's how they have that's how they talk in their conversation.
And if it works
With
for them,
us, if they're
comfortable with it,
yeah,
then you're saying, do you?
Do you? Me, I have some boundaries. I don't know how healthy they are. I don't know what determines healthy. Like, as long as your relationship is not running off the tracks, I guess it's fine. It's healthy, right? I'm trying to think if my husband has any boundaries. He has some boundaries, not many. And honestly, my boundaries seem very selfish. You know what I'm saying? It's like about my time. Or when I'm in a creative space, like, just let me.
I don't think that's selfish. Let me just say
right.
that.
It just sounds selfish, right?
Yeah.
It's just for you.
It's like, believe me, yeah.
But
you better take them kids and get out of my face.
Right.
This is my time.
I mean, I've had times where I've had a bad day at work, and I'm expressive. So I will come home and say, I had a bad day, or whatever, and talk about what happened if I, want to be open about it. Or I'll just say, today was shitty. But I can literally say, like, say Leon's talking on the phone, we're in the same room, he's really loud, and I'm in a bad mood. I can say, can you please, like, leave the room and close the door?
Right.
And he will do that. And then sometimes he'll, like, text me and say, do you want some tea? Because he knows me well enough to be like, okay, she's in a little bit of a mood. She likes to drink tea. Let me just make her some tea and I'm going to leave her alone. Right? But then there are other areas where, like, we don't have boundaries, like closing the bathroom door.
Right.
We don't close doors around here. And it's just us.
Right.
Like, so it's easier. We don't have kids that we think are looking at us and things like that. But even down to, like, some of the weirdest things, like, we both have spring allergies and we'll use the same nasal spray.
Okay.
Like, we are that close.
I have boundaries.
When it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, I have boundaries about sharing certain things.
Okay.
Me too.
I have. Also, I'm
not
going
to share a toothbrush with you, but I don't know why the nasal spray thing doesn't strike anything with me.
Right. Yeah, I think I have more boundaries than he has.
But y'all got kids. He done came in.
I know, right? It's weird. It's weird.
The DNA is up in there.
Let me also
it came out with the kid.
You just had me think about something.
But
We don't have sexual
We gonna leave it
boundaries,
alone.
actually. Like, there are certain things sexual. Like, okay, so we walk around the house naked since our children forever. Okay, our kids don't have any like. There's nothing weird about them with the body. It's so far. Like, sometimes we want to leave the door open while we're having sex while they sleep. It's like this thing of, like,
It's more exciting.
yeah, it's kind of like
the adrenaline rush of it.
yeah.
It's like
I don't know if that's a boundary.
sneaky.
I don't know if that has anything to do with boundaries. But when I think about like boundaries, maybe they have boundaries that we're crossing if they woke up. You know what I'm saying? That we just like, oh no, this will be fun. Nah, I have more than he does. Though.
I think you do have to have boundaries to have a healthy relationship. Because no matter how big or small, like, first of all, the big ones are the ones that matter the most. Like, just in general, but then the small ones are the ones that can break up your marriage too. Like, cheating obviously is a boundary.
Hell yeah, that's
And then, like, even texting or being too flirtatious
Yep.
or anything that you feel is inappropriate and that y'all have decided together is inappropriate for your relationship. But then it's also like you said, being able to have time that's just for you. That's a boundary. Even with your kids, that's a boundary.
Yeah.
And that's a healthy boundary to have. You need that. Otherwise, you never get any time to yourself, especially with kids.
And somebody's gonna die.
Oh.
Okay? You gotta have some time to, or I'm gonna go crazy. I'm a snap.
But when you choose to have children, aren't you saying that I'm going to be and do everything for them?
No.
You're saying I'm going to make you a responsible adult and I'm going to do things that are best for you in the long run, because it's not best for me not to create boundaries with you, because I want you to create boundaries with people.
So it's okay for
when
parents
you get old enough
to,
and even as a kid, kids should have boundaries and be able to tell their parents, this is something I don't like.
Yes. We talk about boundaries in our house a lot.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
Everybody should.
Yep.
And I don't think you can have any healthy relationship if you don't have boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether you view it that way or not, like whether you actually say to yourself, this is a boundary.
Right.
I feel like that's what's debatable.
Because that's what I was thinking about, those implied kind of boundaries that come with certain things. Sometimes we don't express what we should express, and we don't say it, and then we just fly off the handle, but you didn't communicate what your boundary was.
Right.
You know, but I think some things are implied. Like, if you're not in an open relationship, then you don't expect your spouse to have an affair or be with somebody else or whatever the case is. So it's funny how we all thought about this question very differently. You know, you talked about time and I talked about like more of like body related things, and you talked about I guess boundaries when it comes to dealing with people of the opposite sex.
But then also another boundary for me personally is like my husband is very cup half empty and I'm very cup half full. Don't bring that shit over here. Like, you can be that way in your mind, but don't always point out the negatives and everything. You don't have to. What's the benefit of that? And over time, after me saying it over and over and over again, he's like, slowly but surely, he became more positive. And he might still think it, but he won't say it just off the break every time.
Ooh, yeah.
So for me, that's a boundary. That's a boundary in every relationship.
I'm the pessimist, and my husband's the optimist.
I don't even view you that way, but go ahead.
Okay. But if I'm comparing us to each other, he is more optimistic than I am. I think about every possible scenario. So I might go to the negative things first, but I'll eventually get to the positive things. And it really depends on what it is. But when you say don't bring that over here, there are times where he should have listened to the negative shit I was telling him. Because it came to fruition. I'm like,
it's like things that you just don't need to point out. Like, sometimes, obviously, we all know realistically that there are certain things that can happen. And I'm fine with that. If we're making decisions or whatever, I'm not saying like never say anything I don't want to hear. But I'm saying like being just negative all the time and having to, even in situations where it's not applicable or like it doesn't make a difference or whatever, just always having to point out the negative.
People have to get there on their own. Some help is fine, but I feel like I have to be for my spouse what I want him to be for me. So like I can see him in a negative space, which doesn't really happen that frequently. He's happy-go-lucky, free, no fear. But I take it as it's part of my responsibility. So I don't get annoyed by it. It's like, I think I need to help him look at this differently because I can see it festering and becoming something bigger, like mental health issues, So just to be like, keep it over there.
See, that's to me, I come off so blunt. Yes, I know I do.
It came off strong.
But that's not how I, like, it's not in every situation. I just feel like when it's unnecessary. Like when I'm saying, ooh, like, this happened today, and he like, well, that could have happened instead. You know what I'm saying? It's like things like that. Like,
okay.
Just unnecessary.
Nobody
unnecessary.
Okay, that gives it really clarity, like
real
good clarity.
Not like, okay, well, these are all the possibilities. Let's lay it all out.
Yeah,
Let's make the best decision because, like, based on all the facts. Like, not that.
Okay.
But just like
off the coulda, woulda,
you
shoulda.
just have to think of something bad to say.
Yeah.
Like that's how he was, and I was like, bro, you got to stop. You got to chill. Like,
why do you think he was like
was
that?
he raised like that?
He grew up. He had a lot of terrible experiences as a child. Like both of his parents died by the time he was. I'm sorry, his mom died by the time he was 8. He moved in with his father and stepmother. Her family mistreated him. Like it was just he just had a lot of negative experiences. So I mean I see why, but you're not in that space anymore, and now it's time to be a little bit more like you have a lot of good things happening now. So let's try to look at the bright side.
He gotta want to look. He has to want to look at the.
He has to want to look at.
And
the
it's
bright
like
side.
I think over time it just kind of rubbed off on him, and now he doesn't do it like that. But that was a problem for me. Like I need you to stop doing that. Like stop raining on my parade every time I'm in
I
a
can
good
see
like
that. With that example you gave, I could see where you're coming from.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I have a boundary with time is because, well, one, I'm the oldest and I'm the only girl, so they ain't respect my time in the house. You know, you gotta be home with your brothers, no matter what you had planned. You know what I'm saying? Then when we were dating before we got married, he would just make plans, which I wouldn't have a problem with. We were living together, and he would make plans, multiple plans. So he would tell my sister-in-law that my niece could come over, but he was going out. So I'm like, well, who is watching her? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I would have packed my.
So I
my
started
purse and been like, "I'll see you later."
I had never experienced that before. Like nobody would just have the audacity to do some shit like that to me. And you know, my sister-in-law didn't know at the time.
She thought you were okay with it.
She thought he was gonna watch her. Okay, that's not what he's not telling people that. Oh you can bring her over, but I won't be there. Nikelle will be watching her. No, she thought he was gonna be watching her, but she would see him out and she'd be okay with me watching her. But it got to the point where I was like, you just out here acting like I ain't got nothing that I need to be doing. You know what I'm saying? So I set those boundaries a little early. I don't think we would have been able to get married had I not.
Yeah, and everybody has like a different thing. Everybody had a different, like you said, a different upbringing. So everybody's like yeses and nos are different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one for me is my time. Don't rob me. Don't make decisions for my time. I don't care if I ain't got shit going on.
Right.
Don't make decisions for my time.
I'm the same way.
I'm less that way. I don't really like. I guess because it never happens. Like we both just be in the house most of the time, so it ain't really much going on. And I guess he's just very considerate about stuff like that too. So it's never been a problem. I guess that's why. So if he did do it, I wouldn't be like, you better not ever. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't trigger me.
Minute communicator. Like you've been planning a trip for how long?
Right.
I will sometimes find out about a trip the club is going on from another wife.
Ooh, Lord. You want to talk about boundaries? Let some other woman, person, actually, it don't necessarily have to be a woman. Let one of your best friends, let anybody tell me what you're doing. You know how many fights me and my husband, before we were even married, like, period. Like, I don't need nobody telling me what you're doing. I was somewhere one time, and I'm thinking, I didn't know what he was. I was out, and I was out with one of his friend's girlfriends, or I met her up there or something. And somebody else asked me a question, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Ramon, all of them are da-da-da-da-da." And I was like, "Oh, this is about to be a problem." Like, this is a problem. Like, I don't know, and I don't know for the life of me why it triggers me so much, but it triggers the fuck out of me. Okay?
Yeah.
It drives me. Like, you want to beef with me? Do that.
Right.
Please do it. That'll start a fire real quick.
What I learned with Leon is that he's not meaning to do it. It's not purposeful. Like he's not saying, I'm not going to tell you. Sometimes he's like, I haven't even really made up my mind. Yeah, the club said they're going to do X, Y, and Z. I haven't really made up my mind. But to like invite someone to stay the night at my house and you gotta work.
Right.
No. then I have a beef.
Right.
Then there's a problem.
It's never the intention, and that's not even my beef with it. It's that
you're not thinking about.
You didn't think to talk to me because you're just making assumptions like I know, or like no. You need to talk to me. You talk to everybody else. You need to talk to me. You done told everybody else what you were planning or thinking about. You didn't even tell me you were thinking about it.
I think that's what it really boils down to.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, boundaries, all of it is that you're not thinking about me.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm thinking about you.
Yes.
All the time.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess that goes in reverse too. Because we tend to think about people and treat people the way we want to be treated.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah. So like where his boundaries are concerned, I have had to like check myself because we don't have the same boundaries. They're like complete opposites. You know what I'm saying? Like the things that bother me don't tend to bother him. The things that bother him, I used to laugh at. You know, I used to just, because it was a defense mechanism. If I get scared or I'm nervous, I would laugh. It wasn't like, and he, of course, you laugh at anybody and they telling you their issue, they're going to be like, oh, this bitch.
Exactly.
I'm going to strangle her. You know what I'm saying? But it's not, it was just like, I don't get it. But after all these years of being married, it's just, everything comes down to the same thing. Communication.
Yes.
Facts.
It all boils down to communication.
You should only marry a person that you are willing to talk to. You need to marry somebody that you're willing to let talk your head off, or that you want to talk their head off.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it, and that's all. Because that is the only thing that's gonna, like, that's gonna be the foundation. That's the only thing that's gonna hold this thing up.
Yeah.
If you ain't talking to me, it's not going to work.
I agree.
Man, sometimes I want to get that tattooed across my, like, communicate. Like, just, you gotta be clear with me. I don't like mind games, period. But I also don't like reading minds. Like, it drives me crazy. Because I'm not good at it, and I don't want to. More work. I don't want to do anything.
So we all agree that in order to have a successful relationship,
you need boundaries.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And be able to communicate those boundaries.
Yes.
Not just expect people to know necessarily. Some things are implied, but some things you got to communicate. Yeah, communication is
Even the
key.
things that are like seemingly implied, you still have to communicate them
Yep.
in the way that they, like how it means, what it means to you.
Right.
Because my interpretation and yours is going to be completely different.
And me and
You
Leon
might think
are
it's
both,
okay to text people, and I might think it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.